last shot is called the Martini shot, even by people who don't drink martinis.
Well, first of all, through God, all things are possible, so jot that down.
This town needs an enema.
That shit is the Mad Notes, written by God herself and handed down to the greatest band in the world.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live.
All right, we are live. Welcome to the Martini Shot Hangout, everybody. Today is April 13th, Sunday. Sorry, I'm coming a little bit late. You know, family matters call. And you do what you can sometimes, especially when it's coming to you on a Sunday. So before I move any further, smash that like button, subscribe, share the show with your friend. You know the drill. Today, I have a pretty cool guest. I've been following him for a couple years now. If you are interested in a 2000s comedy, a 1990s comedy, if you want to get a nice insight into a movie that just released, not all the movies. I see that he's pretty choosy with his movies. He's only got so much time in the day. But without further ado, my guest today is movie review man, aka Kevin Smith. Not that Kevin Smith. Kevin, how are you today, buddy?
I'm good. Yeah, I only have so much time in the day. Yeah, believe me, I wish I could see every single movie. So I'm a little choosy. It's funny. I get people that are like, hey, like, cause all my, my friends and my, relatives and family friends, they're like, hey, did you see this movie? Did you see that movie? Did you see this movie? Cause they think I can see every single movie. Cause, I've even had people ask me about the Minecraft movie. And I'm like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I have zero interest in general of watching the Minecraft movie. So like, that's not a time thing. That's just cause I just don't really see myself. I'm not the target audience. So like, but yeah, if it's a movie that like, I usually tend to try to see most of the popular movies, like most of the movies that everyone else is going to see. Because obviously that's people for some reason like my opinion. I don't know why. So. Yeah,
no, I like it, man. I think you come across with a certain level of confidence, and you're probably the only guy in the film, the film creator space, I guess you could say, that's most likely to be caught with a tank top on. So that.
So this is like my thing now. So like it's gotten to the point that like I can't even. It's weird because if I post a video without a tank top on now, like either it's weird, the video doesn't do well, or like people literally comment being like, why are you dressed like that? Like, because it got to the point where I was doing so many videos in a tank top because it was like the summertime in Florida and I'm just hot, Like people would ask like, why are you always in a tank top? And I'm like, I'm hot. Like it's hot here. Like, I'm not going to be wearing, like, this is what I like to wear. So like, so it got to the point now that that's just kind of like my persona. And it's just every video I pretty much just throw on a tank top just so I have it on for the video.
Yeah. That's what's the interesting thing about being a creator is people come to know you a certain way. And if you kind of step out of that box, like, yo, what's going on? Is everything all right?
Yeah. I remember I was at like a wedding or like or something where I was dressed like really nice and like a big story dropped. I don't even remember. This was like a year or 2 years ago. And I posted a video like in like a nice outfit, like, really nice. And they were like, not about it. They were like, why are you dressed like this? I'm like, like I'm doing other things. Like, I'm trying to bring you the news, man. Like,
yeah. So that's one of the things. That's one of the things I enjoyed about you is I think we're probably roughly around the same age, like middle-aged dudes. Mm-hmm. We grew up in a different time, when movies actually really were a relevant form of pop culture. That's not, like the Minecraft movie where people are bringing chickens and throwing popcorn all over the place, like a bunch of degenerate lunatics. But when I first came across your stuff, I was like, all right, the dude has a specific look, but he knows what he's saying and he's saying it like he knows it. So that goes pretty far, I think.
Appreciate
as far
that.
As that's concerned.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. That. So what really kind of got you into the movie space, I guess you could say,
it's a question I get a lot, but I like to talk about it. But it's one of those things where I was always really huge into movies, TV, media. At one point in my life, I wanted to be an actor. Like that was just, what I loved, like I spent my Fridays, Saturdays as a teenager, mom would drop you off at the movies. I'd meet all my friends. We'd go see a movie. Like I vividly remember like the rated R movies I would try to sneak into. I remember Pineapple Express was one of them. I remember, super bad. Like these are experiences. I remember the first time I saw Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which is one of my favorite. That's why I love 2000s comedies. And you talked about it because those were kind of like my first introductions to really going to a theater and experiencing movies. Like I loved comedies. Those were always the movies I picked out. Like I remember seeing Superbad in the theaters and how much I loved it. And so it was something I always loved. And even it went into college where, I lived in a frat house for 3.5 years, and I had like the DVD collection. So my friends in the house would come to me and be like on a Saturday night and be like, hey, what can we watch tonight? And we would all gather in our loft with like 30 guys, and we would just watch, whether it was Fight Club or The Godfather or, something that I had on DVD. So like, it was always something I loved. And then the pandemic happened, TikTok happened. And I was like, let me, see what happens. I'm just going to post a little bit, have some fun. It took me a little bit to get some traction. And then once I started taking it like more seriously and, just having no filter and just talking what I wanted to talk about, it just kind of started growing from there. And it got to the point where like, I am now, which is amazing. I still don't believe it. But it's fun, and I love to do it. And, I'm blessed that I'm able to.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's great stuff. And I feel like what you were saying there, you just kind of started putting some feelers out there, and then all of a sudden it turned into something that you really weren't. I feel like a lot of people I talk to, even myself included, I just came out and was talking some shit about, during the pandemic, a lot of the movies that were coming out, you're like, what is this?
You're like, what is this new thing?
Different reality almost than the movies 100%. We were accustomed to watching.
And it's so funny because now TikTok does this whole like kind of like what Facebook does, where it's like this time 10 years ago, like this is what you posted. Mm-hmm. Now they post videos of like, this day 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and like it's crazy to see the improvements of my talking and like my just editing and like making things look nice on a video, making it more fluid. Like my old videos, I'm like pausing a lot, and there's just like, it's just not very fluid and it feels very choppy. And it's like, man, it's crazy to see like how much just continuing to do it and repetition. And that's when if I get people to reach out to me sometimes and like, hey, like I'm just starting out, or like, what advice do you have? And it's like, just create, post, learn. Like that's literally what you can do, because you'll just get better just naturally from also watching other people. Like I watch other people all the time, whether it's like, Sammy J Reacts or like, Straw Hat Goofy, or like these guys that are just like, that's, you kind of learn, all right, this is the stuff that works well, and you kind of cater it to yourself.
Sure.
So it's just trial and error, honestly.
Yeah. That was actually going to be one of my questions is kind of what advice do you have? Because, I fall into that too. My background is like video editing, motion graphics, things of that nature, but I wanted to be a filmmaker at one point. So I knew movies really well. And so when I first started putting stuff out, people were like, man, you got really good quality. But I go back and watch some of my older stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I had good quality, but I didn't really know how to properly move a video along. I guess it's different being behind the camera than being in front of the camera.
100%.
So I guess that'd be my thing for someone like you, who's got a bigger account, but it's just a learning process along the way.
100%.
Anyone who's starting, and if whatever their niche is, if it's movies or sports or whatever, it's just know that you're gonna suck when you first start. I mean, there's no way around it. I watch so many people that start, Instagram pages or YouTube channels or TikTok, and they just kind of give up within 6 months. And it's like, listen, I've been doing this for a few years now, and you just got to keep going. If you,
100%. And that's a good point. And one thing too is you just got to take it seriously. Like if you really want to grow, like you got to take it seriously. That's what I was doing for like a couple of years. I just like, I'd post like once a week, and it was like something that just wasn't very inspiring or inspired. It was just kind of like a screw off video. And I was expecting to like grow off of that. And it's like,
no,
you can't expect that, like it's crazy to say like, people are like, you got to post 3 times a day. And like, you don't have to do that, but like try to post once a day, like try to post every day, be consistent. People get used to seeing you like because that's the problem is if you post and then you dip for a week, like people forget that you even like exist, and then like you got to cater them back in, and to just be consistent and just like try different things, like
Yeah. Yeah, usually my advice is, especially just because you try to get I know that you've been trying to break into YouTube. We were talking a little briefly about that backstage, but I say to people starting out, at least 4 to 5 times a week, at least 100%. Make it that way. Because sometimes even the algorithm will start to not like you if you post too much. There's some people that I personally will follow, and if they post like 6 times a day or something, I'm like, yo, dude, I'm tired of seeing your face. So it's like you got to leave a little bit of mystique there,
especially on like an app like Instagram too. Like it caters more to your followers. So like sometimes like you gotta like I'll catch myself sometimes being like, because I'll post like 3 times a day on TikTok, and I'll catch myself sometimes being like, okay, I'm posting all these on Instagram, or like, and I'll post an extra one, and I'm like, damn, I posted 4 times today. Like, no wonder why some people unfollow me, because it's like they're probably just annoyed of hearing my voice and seeing my videos. Like, like it's just sometimes different apps are different. Like you said, YouTube, you probably need to, especially if you're doing long form, like 1 or 2 videos a week is probably plenty enough.
It is, yeah.
Especially if you're doing a long form video and you expect people to stick around for that long. I know there's like, because I'm a big sports guy, I know that there's, video podcasts that I listen to, and sometimes it takes me 3 different watches to get through the whole podcast. And, so if you're posting 3, 4, or 5 times a week on YouTube, like I'm not going to get to all that content, man. Like,
we only have so much time in the day, man. And then,
exactly.
And that's the thing about being a creator too, is like people are like, you watch so many movies, and I'm like, yeah, I do, but I also don't have a lot of free time because I'm trying to always create. So it's like I watch something, and then immediately I'm thinking about what I just watched, what I want to say about what I just watched, and then thinking about the next thing that I got to watch and how I'm going to say that, record it, edit it, put graphics up, all the fun stuff. So do you ever experience the dreaded burnout?
Bro.
Yeah.
All the time. I actually had this conversation with my wife a couple weeks ago. Like it was, I just, the kids were being difficult, for anyone listening, I have a 4 and a 2-year-old. It's a very tough time right now. Very like, you're not sleeping great, like tantrums, just like, and what I would do, I have a full-time job, I don't do this, full time. So like, I
was actually going to ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah. So my regimen is like, I never have a break, honestly. Because if there is a break, I'm making content. So that's kind of like, so giving an example, today I took my daughters to they had like a watermelon festival, and, we went from 9 to 12:30, got home, put my youngest for a nap. And then I had about an hour, and I was like, I just disappeared. And I was like, I go to my wife, I was like, I got to go make 3 videos. Like, I'll be back in like 45 minutes. So like, I just disappear, come back. Youngest wakes up from a nap, and then I got to take care of my, oldest, do something with her, do some Legos with her, do something, so it's like, it's kind of like my space where I have nothing going on. That's the time to make content. So it's like never really a break. So I had a conversation with my wife. I was like, I don't know if is this worth it? Like, I'm trying, just feel like I never have a break, and she's like, if you need to take a day off of not posting, just take a day off of not posting. And that's the thing, is like, I'm always like on it, be like, I got to do 2-3 videos a day, 2-3 videos. I got to keep growing. I got to keep, I have 100% all the time.
I feel that too. And I was in your position a little bit, when the holidays come around, my oldest, it's her birthday, it's Christmas, it's things of that nature. And I had so much stuff this last week that I was like, I got to do this. And then finally I just sat back and was like, you know what? If I miss a video this day, if this one comes out a little bit later, like, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. I just, your family is more important than this will ever be.
100%.
So, no, I mean, it's always good for people like that to hear, I think, like a lot of my friends, I don't get to hang out with my friends as much as I used to, but I'm like, look, I just turned 40, I got 3 kids, I got a full-time job, and I got my content creation on the side. Like, there's gotta be a point where you just go, all right, look, if I don't make a video today, it's not the end of the world. So
yeah, 100%. And I went to Costa Rica this past month for my 6-year anniversary. It was just me and my wife, and we don't get a lot of time alone. So took like a 5-6 day trip, and like I was like, I gotta my mom was like, she thought it was hilarious because she's like, she comes here the day before we leave, because you take care of my kids. And she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I gotta go upstairs. I'll be upstairs for like 2 hours. I need to batch content. Like I need to like make like, I literally told her, like, I'm making 15 videos. Like, so I can post 2 to 3 videos a day for the 5 days that I'm there. Yeah. So like, I literally like, so I come home, I made 8 videos. I went downstairs and I was like, she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I have block right now. I don't have any video ideas. I have nothing else to make a video about. And I got to make like 5 more videos. And she's like, why don't you just like not? She's like, why don't you just like go on your vacation and just like, so honestly, what I did was, funny enough, I didn't end up making all the videos I wanted to make. So I just ended up reposting old videos from like 2 years ago, and like they did great.
Yeah, that's actually huge. Good. That's actually the thing. I've been starting to repost a few videos too, like especially if it's timely. You know, it really kind of
like, and I'll post old content too, like if it's like relevant. Sometimes I'll be like, you know, like I posted like a Final Destination video, I think 2 years ago or something, and I reposted it like a month ago, like when the Bloodlines is coming out and stuff. And I was like, I think this is relevant. Like I would love to like repost this video so you guys can, you know, see it. Like it's also, you get new followers along the way. Like, you know, they may have not have seen your old content or like content that you loved back in the past. And, you know, it's still relevant to what's going on. So, you know, you'll get the comment every once in a while. It's like, I know this is a repost or whatever. And it's like, listen, man, you have the best memory in the world. Cause like, there's no way you remember this from like a year and a half ago. Like,
what else are you doing with your life that you got to pay attention to what I'm doing?
Exactly. Good on you, man. Cause I don't remember what I did yesterday.
Exactly. Well, I think that's good, man. You know, you're doing good stuff. I think you know, it's been wild because I think I saw you come across my Instagram feed maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I look at your profile now. I'm like, damn, dude, homie's growing like crazy.
Instagram has been crazy. I don't know how. Like, I am so blessed because like that platform is a tough cookie. Like you talk about YouTube, like. There's so many great creators that like I'm sitting on YouTube and I'm like, how do they not have more followers? Like, and it's like, it doesn't correlate too, because sometimes you'll have huge people that have huge profiles on TikTok, and then they go on Instagram and they post the same content and it doesn't really like hit that way. And it's just like, it's kind of like a tough cookie to crack. And I just like, I'm blessed that for some reason my stuff resonated over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been crazy.
I was thinking about what you know, because I do this too, and I'll post a movie review about pretty much every movie that comes out during the week, and you know, sometimes I do have a lot of people that'll be like, okay, good, you liked it, I'm gonna go check it out, or you didn't like it, you're gonna I'll stream it or whatever. But then you get those people that are just like, you know, so hypercritical. They'll come at you no matter what with just guns ablazing. So how are you with dealing with the criticism? I know there's some people I talk to who are like, I don't pay any attention to it, and some people are like, no, it bothers me because, you know, my following's not that big. So whenever somebody gets really pissed, it kind of bugs me. So I was curious with you, because I've seen some of your comment threads. If you're posting on something that's, I don't want to say maybe necessarily political, but like you might just be like, yo, dude, this is this one thing. I kind of feel this way about it. And then people, and then all of a sudden all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. I made a post about the Minecraft movie, and it's like, I posted thinking like, there's no way anyone could disagree with me. Right. Like, come on. It's just like people throwing stuff all over the theater. Like, right. Everyone should agree with me. Like, it's not cool, but like, yeah, especially Instagram. We're talking Instagram. Instagram is one of the most toxic platforms I've never gotten. My TikTok comments are normally pretty nice. Like, honestly, like the majority of, I don't really get nasty comments. Instagram, oh man, like I don't know what people are just pissed off on Instagram or something, but I get some nasty comments, so I've had to block good amount of people. But to answer your question, like specifically MCU movies, I find that it's like very toxic. Because genuinely, I'm an MCU stan. Like I'll admit it. It takes a lot for me to like not enjoy an MCU movie. And you know, I recently, like, you know, I didn't say I loved it. I gave it like a 3 out of 5. But I recently, like, you know, defended the Captain America Brave New World film, just being like, you know, it was fine. Like I had an enjoyable time. Like it didn't reinvent the wheel. It didn't do anything crazy, but I had a good time with it. I felt like people were being hypercritical with it, but and of course you get everyone in the comments, you get half the comments agreeing with you, and then you get the other half being like, oh, you're just a shill, and I think I started my video out like that. Actually, I was like, you can call me an MCU shill if you want, but this is how I feel, and I don't pay attention to it. And I think it's because I've been doing it for so long now that like I'm just so used to it. And it's kind of like I have a mindset of like just like screw the haters. Like if you don't, for me, it's like a comment is a good comment regardless because it's engagement, and that's how I look at it. Like if you want, just as long as you're not being disrespectful, like you're not being like very rude and disrespectful to the point that I have to block you and make it personal and things like that. But if you're just simply disagreeing with me, I'm fine with that. Like, honestly, that's what the movie community honestly needs more of. Like, I think people don't realize that you can like, that's fine. Like, if I don't like a movie and you like a movie or vice versa, like, that's great. Like, I want to have that conversation as to why, like, and sometimes I will, sometimes I'll bite and I'll have like an actual like 5, 6, 7 comment exchange with someone like in my comments about like why they didn't like a movie that maybe I liked or vice versa. But just as long as they're not disrespectful and make it personal and attack me and to the point that I'm like, listen, and I'll check too. Like if they send me a nasty comment in my comment section and they don't even follow me, I just block them.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's no need for me to have this energy around. If they follow me, I tend to try to give them, maybe a chance of like, whatever, but it's, if it's really rude, I'll just block you. I don't have time for that negative energy in my life. Honestly.
I get it, man. I get it. And what's funny is that you said Instagram is just, it's probably one of the more toxic, which is funny because Instagram used to be like the place we went to get away from like Twitter and YouTube and stuff, because it used to kind of have like a more chill vibe. But yeah, as of late, on Instagram, some of the comments I get sometimes, I'm like, what is happening?
I don't know if they're bots or like,
well, that's actually my other point is, I've gotten a lot of engagement in the last year on YouTube. And I put a video review up of Adam Sandler's movie Spaceman last year.
Okay.
And it still gets tons and tons of views for some reason. I have no idea why that one hit the algorithm.
Bizarre.
Well, I've had like 5,000 comments on that video. And I swear to God, all I said was that I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I wanted it to be a little bit better than it was.
Yeah.
I was like, I felt like it left a lot of loose ends in that movie.
Yeah, it was a very mad movie, to be honest.
Yeah, I was like, it wasn't a bad movie at all. And man, people, the amount of comments, but now it's to the point where I feel like all it is bots because they say the same shit. It's like, yo, bro.
It probably hit a certain part of the algorithm or something where it's just like,
where it's like dead internet theory. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's totally what it feels like. I'm like,
but hey.
It's like a Black Mirror episode of just bots sitting here.
But hey, it's getting those views up, man. It still counts as a view. So
exactly. Yeah, it's an interesting state to be in, I think, is as today's day and age. And I feel like for guys like you and me and everybody, I've had people on like, Marta McFly, who's like serious movie buff.
I love her. Yeah, she's great.
Awesome. Super sweet gal. She's got the best sense of humor and the most Canadian dry sort of way.
Her film knowledge is immaculate.
It's insane. But when I was even talking with her about it, I feel like the sentiment is unanimous from everybody is we miss comedies. I miss the comedy movie. It's like I say the comedy movies become like the rock and roll, like it just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Unless it's, in a Marshmallow song versus like, a comedy exists in an MCU movie.
Believe me, man, I could talk on this topic for hours.
That's part of the reason I wanted to have you on because I grew up in high school, like me and my buddies, the only thing we would do is quote like Anchorman or, just some Jim Carrey, Adam Sandler comedy or something like that. And now I'm just like, these kids don't have anything. I'll show my daughter a comedy movie from the 90s and she's like, wow, this is wild. And I'm like, to me, that was just normal. We didn't have all these rules that we had to play by when I was your age. We just watched a movie, thought it was funny, and moved on with our lives.
Yep.
But now it's like you got to make a whole production out of just thinking a movie is funny from the 90s. So, but I also I see the hunger, I see the thirst out there for comedy movies, and I feel like Hollywood's always about 3-4 years behind.
Yeah.
With Naked Gun coming out, I mean, I know it's still a reboot. I get that. But I also am like, hey, maybe there's something there because I feel like if they just take the horror route, horror movies they make them for $6 million. They put them out and they make their money back opening weekend instead of these $250 million movies.
100%.
So I feel like you put out just a banger of a comedy. You don't care if you're going to be quote unquote canceled or anything like that. It's going to make the money back instantly. So I'm curious kind of your stance on where things are now.
Yeah.
If you think there's any hope for it.
I do. I think there's hope for it. And there's a movie I think everyone needs to pay attention to that could turn the tide. It's called Friendship. It comes out. I don't know if it has a release date yet.
With Paul Rudd. It comes out in the summer.
Summer. Okay. Yeah. It's got Paul Rudd, Tim Robinson.
Yeah.
And I want this movie so badly to be so funny and fantastic. And I've heard so many great things about it from other creators that actually have been able to see it at film festivals. And they say it's fantastic. Actually, I know a mutual of mine that gave it a 5 out of 5 and says it's absolutely hysterical, awkward, funny. Some people are comparing it to like an I Love You Man, which is like one of my favorite comedies of all time.
Super underrated.
Yes, super underrated. And I think I had this conversation with another buddy. And I think the problem is there's no one pushing for comedies. Like there's no like a group of individuals pushing. So if you think about it this way, the 90s, think about the 90s had, even the 80s, you had the SNL bunch,
right?
You know, Chevy Chase, Bill Murray. You had a group of individuals that kind of like, they were always the ones circling around in all the different comedies. Eddie Murphy, you kind of had the same cast of characters.
Sure.
The 90s, you had Adam Sandler and his crew. You had Jim Carrey doing his thing. The 2000s, you had the Will Ferrells, the Paul Rudds, the John C. Reilly. And then towards the late 2000s, you had that whole Seth Rogen crew of Jonah Hill, Seth Rogen, James Franco, you know, whatever, going into the 2010s where they made This Is the End. And, you know, even, you know, other guys, you know, you add Mark Wahlberg to the mix.
Sure.
You know, you had kind of groups of individuals that pushed for comedies and they always wanted it. It was almost felt like a friend event. Like they just wanted to get all their buddies together and make something great and make something hilarious. And I don't think the problem is there's no one really spearheading any effort. I feel like, because you think about it, Will Ferrell's getting older.
Yeah.
Seth Rogen is still fantastic. If you've seen The Studio, you know he's still got the sauce. But I have hopes for Tim Robinson that he's going to be kind of the next ushering in the next era of comedy.
Right.
Because you just really need that presence. You need someone that, like, when he's in a movie, you know it's going to be funny or you know what to expect. You know, when you saw Will Ferrell in a new comedy in the 2000s, like you're like, I gotta go see that movie. When you saw Seth Rogen or Jonah Hill or, you know, Paul Rudd or whatever in the 2000s, late 2000s, like that's going to be a banger. I need to go see that one. Or even Jason Segel, you know, when he was in Forgetting Sarah Marshall and then doing I Love You Man, you know, you knew what you were getting with Jim Carrey. You knew what you were getting with all these guys, Adam Sandler. There's no one really now that, think about it, like who's the funny guy right now? Like, Shane Gillis, you know, Shane Gillis, Tim Robinson, like those are kind of the guys right now. You know, so like, what are we gonna do? We got to put them in things. We got to put them in things that are smart, funny, clever.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily a money issue because, like you said, you can make a comedy for less than $10 million. Right. Like, let's be real. Like the money is mainly going to be getting the talent. That's usually how the money is spent in comedies. You know, if you can make horror movies for cheap, you can make a comedy for cheap.
Yeah.
So I don't like that cop out, and I don't like the woke cop out either. Like usually people are in my comment sections when I talk about it and they're like, oh, well, like, you know, people are woke now and they don't want things pushing the envelope. And I don't necessarily think it's that either because, you know, you still have South Park on air.
Yeah.
Like South Park still airs. Like people want things that push the envelope.
Sure.
Now I get it. People are like, they're scared that they're going to get canceled. But I think if you genuinely put something out that is funny, it doesn't necessarily need to be raunchy. It just needs to be clever, smart. And I think Friendship has that chance. And I think if it does well, the problem is people need to go see it because if no one goes and sees it, like even Joyride, I don't know if you saw Joyride, I think 2 years ago, with the female cast, the
Yes.
all-female
Yeah,
cast.
yeah.
It was kind of like a female version of The Hangover almost. I thought that film was really funny, but the problem is like no one went and saw it, and so like that doesn't really spearhead anything else.
Yeah.
And it was raunchy, it was gross, it was funny. Like, you know, it kind of reminded me of those 2000 comedies. No Hard Feelings was pretty funny. You know, but
yeah, the Jennifer
it
Lawrence
did pretty well.
Yeah.
It did pretty well at the box office, but the problem is like you just need someone to spearhead the next era of comedy. So I'm hoping Tim Robinson's going to be that guy.
I agree with you, and I think part of it too is like I agree with you on the woke angle, but I think some of that scare, you know, because it was a thing. I mean, you can't deny it for a little bit there where it was like
100%.
it was real hands off. We don't want to do it, but I feel like that time's passed. And so I think the problem now is the movie studios have no idea how to figure out really how to make movies matter anymore if it's not something like Minecraft or MCU. So they're struggling to really put, I mean, well, the problem is they put so much money behind dumb movies. Correct. And they're too afraid to take a chance on, like, you know, Ace Ventura from the 90s or something.
And don't get me wrong. Like I said, I love the MCU. I'm an IP guy too. Like I'm not like trying to be like, you can't make things that have IPs, long-standing IPs. Like that's not what necessarily I'm saying either. But like but it's also, and I think I made a video about this a couple weeks ago. You have to have accountability because you have those people that are screaming for original movies and then they don't go see the original movies and then wonder why original movies don't get made. As much as we love art and we think, you know, cinema is an art form, and it's a money-making business. That's what it is. Like these studios, watch the studio, like that. These studios make movies to make money. Like that's what they do. That's the main purpose of what they do. Now you'll have directors that push to be able to do artistic things like Martin Scorsese, you know, Steven Spielberg, you know, Ari Aster, you know, individuals that want to push to do things on a more artistic format, you know, Jordan Peele, you know, like you're going to have those directors. But the problem is that's a small bucket in a big landscape of, hey, I just want something that's going to make $2 billion.
Right.
I don't really care how good it is because you know what, like, whatever, I'm raking in the money.
Yeah.
And the problem with the Minecraft movie is it's like a double-edged sword because my thing is I'm glad some people are enjoying it. I'm glad genuinely it looks like some people like the movie, even though it's kind of like an irony thing. They like it because it's so bad, and I'm glad people are going to the theaters. And I'm glad people are spending money at the theaters. I'm glad, you know, it's great. But like at the end of the day, it's also a terrible thing because you're going to get like 8 sequels of this Minecraft thing. And then the problem is that sequel could have gone to another movie that was maybe an original movie or something that's more of a passion project for someone. Instead, it's just going to be this continued vessel of just pushing out things. It's like the Minion movies, man. Like, I'm sorry. I cannot stand the Minion movie. I've never liked the Minion movie. Like even the first one, like I've never understood those movies. And I love a ton of kid movies. I am a Pixar, Disney. I'm a Disney adult. Been born and raised in Florida.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're close by.
I get it. I get the kid movies. Like that's, you know, whatever. I just got finished watching Shark Tale. Underrated. You know, like, but the problem is now is those movies have made so much money. They're just going to continue to make them, even though they're bad. Like even the people that like the franchise said the last one was like atrocious. Like, but the problem is it's still like made over $1 billion. I'm pretty sure. Like, because they have such a built-in audience that they're just going to continue to make it. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword because it's like great for movie theaters, but like, okay, we're just going to keep getting trash thrown at us. It's like,
and I think the other problem with some of that is just the movie releases in general, like Companion, which I thought was a great movie.
Yeah,
but it's like if you missed it the opening weekend, you could watch it on demand like a week later, you know. So I've seen some discussions, especially the head of the AMC, I'm blanking on his name, but he was saying, hey, we need to go back to like 90-day these movies need to be in the theaters for 90 days
I
before.
think they were starting with 45 days first.
45 days, and then I agree with 90 days. I had Cody Leach on. He's a pretty big YouTuber.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah.
And he was saying he misses missing movies, because I feel like that's the problem now is these studios get real gun shy. And Companion made its money back opening weekend. I think the movie cost like $8 million, but it didn't have time to build any word of mouth or anything like that. And then once it did build word of mouth, you could just watch it from the comfort of your own home where you don't need to go to a theater where someone's sitting there on their iPhone or talking or whatever. And you're still paying less money to watch it, streaming it at your house. So I think there needs to be a strategy there. But one of the things that I do kind of like with that is for the indie movie. I've noticed a lot more kind of smaller studios starting to release these smaller projects. And I think that's a really good strategy for those smaller movies to kind of, hey, we'll be in the theater this weekend, and then next weekend you can rent us on demand.
100%. I agree, because that's how they're going to make their money anyways.
That's how they make their money. And those movies don't cost anything. I've watched a lot of stuff, at least recently, where I haven't seen any advertisement for it besides maybe social media. And I would never have gone out of my way to watch them, but they'll send it to me to watch. And for example, I watched the new John Leguizamo movie. It's called Bob Trevino Likes It.
Yeah, I've heard great things.
Fantastic movie.
Good.
I did not expect that at all, but I would never have gone out of my way to see it. But I was like, hey, this is a movie that would be great to watch and either go see it in the theaters or stream it from on demand, just to kind of build a little bit of word of mouth and get eyeballs on that movie because it's really solid.
I have a thought about this. I think there's too many movies now.
Yes.
I'm just gonna say that. Like, if you go look at the release schedule, there's a website I love that it says coming soon, whatever.com. It has every single, whether it's an indie movie, whether it's wide release, whether it's limited release. And I'm not even kidding you, man. Like, every weekend there's 8 new movies coming out. And it's like, it's not sustainable. Like, no wonder why so many movies flop, because it's like, and I made a video about this a long time ago where people are like, a movie flop, that means it's ass or it's not good.
Yeah.
One, that doesn't mean anything. But two, it also depends, what was it going against? Because if you drop a movie against, I think it's the Thing flopped, the original Thing, and it was going up against, I think, maybe one of the Star Wars or something. And it's like, no crap, it did, people are going to go see this movie over this movie. And the problem is now there's so many movies out that if there's one movie people want to see that weekend, there's going to be so many other movies that just suffer just because it's there. And people don't have enough time. It's like how the summer months, I told people, there's one of those movies, Superman, Fantastic Four, and Jurassic World Rebirth, one of them is going to fail. Yeah. As far as money wise, because there's just not enough time for people. There's not enough money. There's not enough, where people are just going to pick and choose. And, and all those movies kind of have the same audience. The same very target audience. So one of them is going to fail. Yeah, and sure. Which one is it going to be? I have my money on Superman, but that's just me. I just think the MCU is too big now to where people just go see MCU movies. It's just part of the way of life. And now you got a new team, Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
DCU is starting new. This is kind of their first project. I don't know if the excitement and the hype is there. I'm not saying it's going to do terrible. I'm just saying it's not going to do $1 billion. Yeah. Where some of these people think, it's a Superman movie. It's going to do $1 billion. It's a Fantastic Four movie. Now, listen, Jurassic World Rebirth, that movie's going to make over $1 billion. I almost can guarantee you.
Yeah, because the last one did, and that one was terrible.
It's a Jurassic World movie. Yeah. People love dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs. I will be there opening night. My wife, that is her thing, is the Jurassic Park franchise, is her favorite thing in the world. So she will be dragging me regardless to go see that opening night. But there's just too many movies and there's not enough time. And to your point with the going to streaming, it's I usually go see my new movies on a Friday, a matinee, because I get off of work a little early and I can go see a movie before my kids get home. And I was I posted my Warfare review, and they're you also should go check out Novocaine. I had so much fun with that movie this year. and I hadn't posted a review about it because I hadn't seen it yet. And I was like, oh, I have some more time today. Maybe I'll go do a double feature and I'll go check it out finally. And it's gone. It's not in any of my theaters, and it didn't come out very long ago. And
it's already on. It's already streaming, man.
And I literally messaged that person back in my comment section. It's like, it's gone. Like, I can't, like, I'll see it at home. I'll watch it this weekend. So like, that's the thing. It's like, you know, the problem is like you said, word of mouth. You're not letting it marinate.
Nope.
You're not letting it like kind of. It's just if unless the hype is there from the beginning, you know, like. I have an example. I loved The Fall Guy last year. I had so much fun with that movie.
I loved it too.
And the problem is you got Ryan Gosling, you got Emily Blunt, you got good names attached to this project. I guarantee you, if you let that movie in the theaters for a little bit longer, the word of mouth would have carried. People would have gone and see the movie more. But they took it out, I think, after like a month and put it on streaming. And now everyone's like, it's flopping. And it's like, no wonder why it's flopping.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
You know, so
I agree 100% with that, man.
It's tough.
And like this weekend, for example, it's like there were 3 or 4 original movies that came out. You know, it was Warfare, Drop, Amateur, and there's just, you know, I saw Drop on Monday, and then I saw Warfare on Wednesday. But still, it's like I got a full-time job. I got to go after work to go watch these movies.
Yeah.
And put a review up, and it's like I like them. And I think the other problem is too, like I took my kids maybe a month ago to go see the new Looney Tunes movie.
Okay.
You know, 3 kids, just me. Between
the Earth blew up.
The Earth blew up, and I thought it was great. Like, we all loved it. We all had a blast.
Yeah.
But the problem is I went in there. You know, I'm Cinemark Movie Rewards.
So am I.
So so I still get a discount on it. But I'm buying 4 tickets and then plus candy and popcorn. So I'm already out $100. So, you know, it's like that's a problem too. I mean, when you're charging this, and that's what the movie theaters are really failing to realize is they're like, oh, we're not making as much money. Let's raise the ticket prices. And it's like, maybe if you put out a little bit better movies to where it's not everything feels kind of the same, you know, because I thought the Looney Tunes movie was great. I wanted it to make a ton of money. I don't really made any money. But
that's a tough one. That's a tough IP because, like, I don't know any kids that like watch Looney Tunes. Like, my daughters
grew up on it, and our parents grew up on it, but my kids barely know anything about them.
Yeah,
you didn't have the big players really. Like, Bugs wasn't in it. You know, it was just a Daffy Duck, Porky Pig movie.
Okay, but it was. I heard good things though. I've heard good things.
Man. It's fantastic. And the kids loved it.
Would love. I only have about 15-20 more minutes. I would love to talk. I would love to talk Warfare with you.
Yeah, let's talk that.
Please.
Yeah, so Warfare came out co-directed and co-written by Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza, who was there. He was part of that SEAL team. So yeah, let's get some of your thoughts. I saw your review the other day. I absolutely was gobsmacked by that movie.
So I got home from watching it, and I was like, you know, my wife always asks me, you know, how was it? And I said, it was good. And she's like, really good. And she like looked at me. And she's like, why are you like, you don't seem very like happy that you really like this movie. And I was like, well, I don't feel, I'm very numb right now. Like, I don't feel anything. Like, I'm just kind of like, you know, like it wasn't like a fun movie. And I stated this in my review. Like, I had no enjoyment in watching this film. Like I was sitting there. I think at one point I brought my knees up. Like, I was like a little child, and I was literally just like holding my knees and just so much anxiety. Like, just like, this is like, I feel like this is what being in war is like, and I don't like it. And this is why I didn't join the military. And it's so much of what Alex Garland, I don't think it's enough credit for, is his usage of sound. And
the sound design of that is some of the best I've ever heard.
Whoever he employs to do the sound design for most of his movies.
Yeah.
Like, you can say what you want about Civil War. Like, the sound design was very similar in Civil War as well, especially the action sequences at the end. But whoever he's getting to do his sound design, like, bravo, because it's perfection. Like, the way that he emitted feelings without even like using sound, like, he would have the entire theater go silent, the entire film go silent for about 10 seconds. And you would pan to different characters and just get their facial expressions. And you're just sitting there with that dread. And all of a sudden, freaking 1,000 decibels just get thrown at you of like screams and bullets flying and everything. And it's just the whole experience was just so anxiety driven and just tension driven, to where I also said in my review, like, there's seemingly no character development in this movie. Like, you don't know anything about these characters, but it doesn't matter because that's not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is to show essentially how crappy warfare essentially is. The movie is called Warfare. Like, and it's showing you, guys, backs up against the wall. They have nowhere to go. They're only relying on each other. They're all in this nightmare, essentially just trying to get out. Yep. And it's just, you don't need character development to just know kind of how they're feeling. And also the character development is essentially you seeing how they feel about each other. When a guy is wounded, you're seeing how traumatized Will Poulter's character. There was a point with Will Poulter's character where he's in the bedroom and Charles Melton's character comes in, and I'm not trying to spoil anything, but comes in and tries to help out. And Will Poulter's character is just like, he's dazed. Like, he's the man in command and he doesn't feel like he can lead these men. And this was the point in the movie that I loved the most. He's sitting there and he just looks at him. He goes, "Hey man, I'm fucked up. Yep. Like, I need you to point this. I need you to head point. Like, I can't do this." Like, he's so stricken by fear that, like, he doesn't feel like he can lead his men. And I think there's also a point in the movie too that, like, really struck me hard, was like Ray Mendoza's character, who is featured a lot in this movie, which I liked. He's putting a tourniquet on, I believe, one of the characters. I don't want to give any spoilers, but one of the characters, and he just like goes blank. He stops doing what he's doing. He's going to put the tourniquet on. He's leaning his leg on the other guy's leg to stop the bleeding. Okay. And he just goes blank and just stares out into the abyss. And he's not finishing the tourniquet because he's so, like, just overwhelmed with everything that's going on, to where the other guy notices. He's like, what are you doing? Are you good? Like, you look like you're about to have like a stroke. And then he just, like, pretty much comes over and finishes it for him without even him noticing. Like, he's so out of it. Like, it's just so, like, I love, like, the facial expressions, and, like, you felt what every character was going through, and, like, it was so effective. Like,
it really was.
And I got heat. You talk about criticism. I got heat from my review because I said something about, like, American Sniper and Lone Survivor glamorize or glorify war. And they're like, "What do you mean it, like, glorifies war?" And I used that word. Yeah. And I felt I probably shouldn't have used that word. Because it doesn't glamorize it, but, like, it's not a pew pew, like, save the world, like, come to the rescue, like, let's show how badass we are, like, America, which is fine. I love movies like that. Don't get me wrong. I like Lone Survivor. I like American Sniper. It's not a shout at those movies. It's just like, that's not what this movie is. I don't even think I remember them killing, like, 2 of the bad guys the entire time. Like, there's not even a time where they, like, go off and they're just, like, knocking guys down, and they're just backs up against the wall the entire movie. That's pretty much just what it is, just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And I love that because it wasn't
we're in a situation, we need to get out of this situation sort of movie.
It wasn't a rah like, let's take out the bad guys, let's move on, and again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but that's usually a moniker of most war movies. It's just kind of like, we are backs up against the wall, and Lone Survivor had that. Their backs were up against the wall, and a couple of guys died, and then he had to survive and figure out how to survive in such bad terrain and everything. But there were moments where, like, it makes it look cool to be a Navy SEAL, and, like, I think my Letterboxd review was like 2 sentences. I said 95% of war movies, and I put a quote underneath it. It said, like, "Man, I would really love to do that. That looks cool." And then it said, "Watches Warfare," and I put in quotes, "Man, I'm so glad I didn't do that." And then at the end, it just said, "Fuck." Like, that literally was my review. I was like, I don't want to be in the military after watching that. There's no fiber of my being that wants to be a part of that.
I agree. And I think for my hook on that movie review is, I think this movie gave me PTSD. Like, I'm not joking.
Yeah,
It was,
100%.
and one of my buddies who he's a F-35, like he works on their planes. He said that the F-18s in warfare were his units. Profane was our calling on tattooed on his chest. And he said Gandolfini's character was a fact pilot from our unit. So like he had a personal thing, and he said the bullets like that whizzed by in that. He goes, that's exactly what it sounds like. And I was like, see, like that movie was one of the more realistic takes I've ever seen on war in my life. Yeah, and it's definitely has the war is hell theme, but it also has the theme of we are fucked. What do we do?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It never takes off the gas. Like never. There was never a moment where you're like, there's hope. Like, it's just like, it never takes the foot off the gas. It's like one bad thing after another, after another. Even when the first medevac came, you're like, this is great. Then the medevac, it's like, that's, you know, how most, you know, gets blown up. And then like, you know, it's like, okay, this is great. Now they can't get another medevac because the first one got blown up. And it's like, so it's like, there's not, it's just there's always and I kept expecting something bad to happen, like, you know, at the end, you know, I was surprised less people passed away with how grim the story was, but it almost makes the story more astonishing, you know, that like, you know, how few people passed away from the story, but like it never takes the foot off the gas. Like it's just like, and I heard someone say like, you know, someone's like, oh, is it like Apocalypse Now? And I'm like, no, because even in Apocalypse Now, you have those moments of rah-rah. You have like the moment where like, you know, they're playing the song and they're on the helicopter and they're gonna go kick some ass, you know,
well,
like
there's a lot of character development in Apocalypse Now. This movie's an hour and a half, so you don't have time. It
gets right to the point. Yep. And also one thing I want to punch Alex Garland in the face for is that beginning scene, because he completely did a complete flip after that scene. Because you're like, this is kind of fun. Like they're like dancing around, they're having fun watching the music video, and then all of a sudden it just no, you're gonna hate yourself for the next hour and a half.
Yeah,
enjoy.
I know that dude wants to step away from being behind the camera, but I'm like, don't, man. I mean, I thought Civil War was a bit overrated. There's a lot of parts I liked about it, but there was a lot of things I didn't like, didn't gel with too much. But when I saw this movie, I was like, see, this is what his specialty is. He's really able to amplify tension without doing anything, because once things really hit the fan, it's not really unexpected, but he does it in such a way to where you're like, oh shit, just got really real, like really fast. And like even with Ex Machina, like that whole movie is going one way and then it punches you in the face and it goes a completely different way.
100%. No, yeah, definitely. And people forget that he also wrote, you know, 28 Days Later. He's an extremely talented individual. You know, say what you want about Civil War. I was definitely higher on that than a lot of people. I know it's very divisive. I was higher on it, but I think if I rewatch it, I won't like it as much. You know, I think, you know, I understood people's issues with it. I don't necessarily care that it didn't take a side. That's honestly that's actually not what one of my issues would be. I thought the pacing was kind of off at times.
Yeah.
It kind of dragged at moments. I think the end is great. Honestly, I think the end is one of the best parts. Obviously, you have some great bits in the middle there with, you know, Jesse Plemons' character.
Yeah. That was the best part of the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Best 3-4 minutes of the movie. But yeah, I definitely get people's gripes with it. But if you ask me, I think now is the best time of ever to have a political movie not be political.
Exactly.
Like I'd almost just want a Civil War movie. Like I don't need to know the sides. I don't need to know why people are mad at each other, because people are just constantly mad at each other in real life. So like I don't need, you know, like
I know
it's I want to break from that. Like that's, you know, so like I didn't have that issue where like people were like, oh, Alex Garland's a coward because he didn't pick a side or make it a like, you know, this side is bad, this side is good because of this.
Yeah.
You know, so it can go into real life and people start arguing about it more.
Sure.
But he's extremely talented. I hope he does not give up being behind the camera, because I think this is this his best movie?
I'd put it up there, man. I mean, Ex Machina was like one of my favorites for a long time, but
it's fantastic. I
would absolutely say, I mean, this is the best movie I think I've seen this year.
Oh, easy.
Yeah.
You've seen more movies than I have, but I've seen the majority of like the big releases, like
Right.
that, mostly everyone that watches movies see. Like, I think before this movie, my top two were Black Bag
Black Bag's great.
and Mickey 17. Those are my top two.
Yeah.
And then Companion.
Yeah.
What else? I don't remember what else.
Did you see Magazine Dreams with the Jonathan Majors movie?
I want to. What did you think?
So I gotta say, like, the movie itself, it's really, really good. But
I heard it's very dark.
It's very Taxi Driver, but
okay.
With like Taxi Driver, or even the movie like that I kind of compared it to is The Whale with Brendan Fraser.
Okay. Yeah.
But he's just like, he's real self-destructive.
Okay.
But those movies, like, they are very self-aware of the destruction.
Okay. Yeah.
Themselves. In this movie, he's clueless. So it's real tough to watch at times because he has such these delusions of grandeur. But my point is when I like that Jonathan Majors is so good in that movie. Like, probably one of the best performances I've seen in a decade. Like, and I'm not kidding. But with all the behind the scenes stuff, it got really pushed aside. But because of his performance in that movie alone, I was like, this movie's great.
I've heard amazing things about it. I want to see it.
Yeah.
I am a proponent of separate the artists from whatever they're doing outside of that. Like, if you want to be real, it's like 70% of people like in the industry have done something. Like, let's be real. Like, look up some of your favorite actors or your favorite, whatever, favorite studio heads or producers, or you're gonna find something about him. Listen, I'm not excusing anything Jonathan Majors was accused of or did, but my thing is like, people get second chances all the time in this industry. My thing is
a good comeback story too.
Yeah, and my thing is he's a very talented actor. Like, there's no doubting that. So I will watch it.
Yeah,
but
I'd be interested to see if you throw a review up there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that movie.
I think it's gonna be my next watch, honestly, because I
think it's on VOD now.
I don't know if you know. I don't know if he's in your scope. Like, you seen the guy Cuban Crusher?
No.
He makes like very interesting content, but he's like an MCU. He talks a lot about comic books and stuff, but he's very big into like weightlifting and stuff like that. So like he spoke about it very, very honestly, and how it like talks a lot about mental health and things like that, and and he loved it. He spoke glaringly of it. Said it's probably one of the best movies he's seen like this decade. So like, I want to see it. And, it's one of those things where, I'm going to try to separate everything that's going on.
Yeah, he's so captivating in it. I don't think you really think about it too much when you're watching it, because but there is a part of who he is in that movie. There's a scene he has with, I can't remember the actress's name. Like, he goes on a date with her.
Okay.
And he's real, just all he's doing is talking about himself and insulting her and stuff. And you're kind of
So you like kind of like it,
it's kind of hard
about it. I don't want to think about it.
You don't want to, but so one thing I did want to ask, I know you got to get going here pretty soon, but since you become a dad and watching a movie like Warfare, do you find yourself when you watch these movies kind of, you just feel like your empathy and your sympathy kind of is a much higher rate than it used to be? I've 100%. Noticed that the older I've gotten, and with kids and stuff, I really put like my kids in some of these positions. Like when I'm watching Warfare, I'm like, damn, if my son was doing that or something, or if my daughter was this person, and I end up finding myself being maybe a little bit more lenient on certain scenarios than other people may be.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious on your thoughts.
No, you're on point. You're on point, dude. I cried at everything now. Like, it's like literally, I think, what was the movie last year that I loved? We Live in Time with Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. I have two little girls.
Movie, man. I was surprised that movie didn't get more traction.
So good. And I saw some people didn't like it. I don't really understand why. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. But I have two young daughters, and like, it's
being a daddy,
dude, like the moment I think I cried like 6 different times, like in that movie. And it's like the moment they interject a young little girl, like it's like my mind immediately goes, okay, what if this was my wife that went through this? And then I need to have these conversations with my daughters, and then they go through this. Like, dude, I could not. Like, it was the end when they're making, I forget what they make at the end with her rest, how she makes it, like the food.
Oh yeah.
And they were doing it without her because she had just passed away. Oh my God. I lost it. And so I always put myself in situations now. Like, that's kind of just, you always put yourself there. Or like you said, your child, like, I'm assuming, if I were to watch a movie about like domestic violence, or like something where like, it's a woman involved with, someone, treating her poorly or anything like that, I'd put my daughter in that situation, just like you put your son in that warfare situation. So it's just, it definitely gives you more empathy. But yeah, I cried everything now, like even animated movies. Like, it's just like, I don't know what happened, because I've always been kind of a sensitive guy as far as movies are concerned. I'm not terribly hard to make cry, but now it's like, if you involve anything with a young girl, like in a movie, I'm gonna cry.
So that's why I highly recommend you watch Bob Trevino Likes It, because essentially that movie is a girl is just like, her dad is just like this narcissistic dude who tosses her aside because she's too much of an inconvenience. She's like she's like this young lady who's trying to get by barely. And she's socially awkward, and her dad treats her like shit. And then she forms a familiar bond with John Leguizamo, who kind of becomes like her dad figure. The whole time.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna check it out. It's on my watch list for sure.
Yeah. So when I saw that, I was like, God, I'm such a sap man. Especially if you put like, I put my daughter, my oldest, especially into that position. I'm instantly like, man, if anybody, I can't imagine being one, that dad that treats her that way, but 2, 100%. Like, just watching her daily struggle and being okay with that as a father. Like, I could never.
There's a movie I want to know if you've seen. I've been putting it off for a while because it looks extremely sad, and I would probably cry the entire time. I think it came out last year. It's called Three Daughters. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen that.
So it's got a star-studded cast. It has I'm gonna look it up right now. It has Elizabeth Olsen.
Okay.
And it's literally about like their father passing away, and they just show up to like, like talk about. It's apparently a very slow and kind of like.
I didn't.
It's got Elizabeth Olsen's got Carrie Coon.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you're a White Lotus fan.
I am. We could talk about
it has Natasha Lyonne.
Okay.
So it's got like a pretty great cast. The whole point of the movie is literally like, these 3 daughters come to a bittersweet and funny story. An elderly patriarch of 3 grown daughters come to be with him in his final days. It's like, I was literally like, I don't know if I'm gonna get through that movie. Like, especially because I have 2 daughters. Like, I'm just gonna be envisioning like them like at my bedside, like when I'm old.
I'm 100% on board with you with that, like daddy daughter stuff. And it's different because I have 2 daughters and a son, so it's you get
a little bit of both.
A little bit of both, but with the son, you're always like, oh man, that dad could have handled that different with the son or something like that. But
100%.
So one last thing before I let you go, man, I wanted to talk to you about how'd you feel about season 3 of The White Lotus? Because I could give you my quick brief overview of it. I love that show. Season 1 still like hands down my favorite because there's many reasons why, but what's his name? The like the maitre d' of the hotel, that guy was just like,
it's great. It's great.
This season it had a lot of weird stuff and a lot of unresolved loose ends. And then like the thing that bothered me the most, and this is spoiler territory for anybody, but it was just the way everything ended. I was like, there's this big gunfight, people die. Lockie was like on his deathbed, and then 1 second later he's in a boat and they're sailing off like a few hours later.
Your main issue is there wasn't everything resolved. A lot of things that were resolved. There's a lot of loose ends, right?
There was loose ends, but there was also and I don't want to say no point, because I see the point in every character and the things that they want to say. Like there's friendship. There's a lot of different themes that go on with that series. I just felt like a lot of things just kind of happened at the end, and then they were just like, all right, well, anyway, we're gonna sail off. Bye.
I definitely get that, and I'll give you my brief thoughts because I need to dip soon. But I made a video that I recommend you go watch if you can. I made a video about a week or so ago talking about this exact thing, that I feel like some individuals, I'm not saying you, I'm saying like people that are like, oh, this season sucked. Like it was awful, like awful, waste of time. Like I feel like kind of people skate by the concept of the White Lotus.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And I think the problem is they look at it as a normal narrative of a TV show, like a Succession or a, Severance, where they want everything to be tied up into a bow. And listen, I was hypercritical of the finale. I don't think it was perfect in any sense of the word. If you were to ask me, I think it would have made more sense for Loki to die, than to have the entire gunfight. I think the gunfight was kind of pointless. I think it was kind of stupid. It wasn't White Lotus. Like that's not how this isn't John Wick. Like I thought that was it felt kind of out of place for the series. It's more about tension. It's more about like things happening kind of in a weird way. And I think that the blender thing worked perfectly. I think, I was on edge the whole time watching him make that shake, and then watching him drink it, and then watching him like convulse on the ground, and like watching his family walk away to go get breakfast while he's just kind of like dying there, and they don't know anything about the dad, and they don't know anything about the dad trying to kill them all last night.
Yeah.
And I think that the show would have been better off ending with nothing happening with Rick and Chelsea. I think Chelsea and Rick should have just gone off into the sunset. I think Rick should have learned that was his dad and then just moved on and gotten closure that way. I don't think he necessarily needed to die. Chelsea, I get why they wanted to kill her because most people were connected to her.
Yeah, she was like the only good person this season.
Yeah, so they wanted that.
Yeah.
But it was kind of predictable because everyone kind of expected that to happen. Yeah. So I think the way the show should have ended was Loki dies. Everyone shows up back at the villa with Tim holding Loki and them all freaking out. And then Tim finally having his meltdown.
Yeah.
Telling everyone what's going on, that the FBI is after him. Him confessing that he's been trying to kill them, and him either then going on and taking his own life or whatever, something crazy happening, just him finally having the meltdown that has been building for like 7 episodes. And I think that would have been better off because one, you get to see this crazy reaction of an entire family not knowing what's been going on for weeks with their dad, and then all finding out at the same time while also finding out that their brother is dead and that their dad is the one that killed him.
Oh, man.
So the whole thing would have just been crazy. And I think they could have shortened the beginning of the episode. I think they could have gotten more into the crazy stuff like way earlier in the episode and used the next hour or so to just deal with the aftermath, with the aftermath of them finding Loki dead, him confessing everything to them about how he's been trying to kill them for like a week now, because he feels like they can't live a normal or like a not so normal life with not a lot of money. And like, it just would have been crazy to see. And I just feel like they were going for this, like, shoot 'em up. Like, it just didn't fit the vibe of the show.
It boiled over to a point that I think kind of lost the plot a bit.
Yeah, but I also do think people need to realize this show is not supposed to be like I was getting in my original point. Not everything is supposed to be tied up in a bow. It's supposed to be like the whole point of the show is like, say you're at a resort, there's cameras everywhere, and you're just watching people live. That is the whole point of the show.
Yeah, it's like people.
It's a show, but a reality show. It's a reality show that is pretending to be a show. That's the whole point of this show. Is it's supposed to be like you're just watching. And I think that's why I love it, because I love reality shows, and I'm just like I love people like getting into tiffs and arguments and trying to catch up on social cues and trying to see how people are feeling in certain situations. And it's not meant to be like this is the plot. The plot is going to be ended by the last episode.
Right.
Like I think that a lot of people are kind of off on that. And it's kind of weird if like some people are confused with that, because if you're watching to this point, every other season's kind of kept that same like level of progression.
Sure.
and I get it. The other seasons did a better job, like ending the season.
Yeah.
Like I said, like I just said, my gripes with the season finale, but I do think people need to realize it's kind of just supposed to be a meandering of interactions, and you know, what if you're stuck at this resort for a week with people you don't know? I think that's literally the whole point of the show.
Yeah, there's that. And the theme of it, what I've really enjoyed about the show is that most of the characters really aren't very likable. Well, I like that no matter whether they're like social justice warrior or like a shitty racist, like they're all on the same playing grounds. They don't they don't preach to anybody. They just say, this person said this one thing. That person's still expendable, just as expendable 100%. As this person who may be looking at everybody from their
100%. 100%.
So I've always really enjoyed that about the show.
I still think the second season is the best season.
I love the second season. The way the second season ended too was just awesome. But
that was perfect.
Well, Kev, I know you got to get going, man, but I really, really appreciate you hopping on. Sorry that we had a little bit of a late start, but I appreciate your understanding and all that. But tell us what you got going on next, where people can find you, and then we'll call it a day.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much for having me on. This was so much fun, honestly.
Yeah, let's do it again sometime, man. And when you hit the podcast up, I'm glad to come on anytime.
100%. Yeah. So we're gonna I'm doing a podcast with my friend mutual from social media, Stony the Great. I don't know if you guys know him.
No, but I'll check him out.
All over social media, Stony the Great. We have our podcast coming out. It's called the Final Cut Podcast. We're actually going to be interviewing a director of an upcoming film on our first episode. It's a smaller movie,
bro.
Smaller movie. But yeah, we're excited about that. So go check us out on YouTube. I just actually made the YouTube channel this morning. It's called the Final Cut Podcast. And then also, if you guys want to follow me on YouTube, I know we talked about like trying to get that a little bit bigger, but I'm a little bit different on YouTube. I go by movie.review_man. Movie.review_man. So go give me a sub to me there. I'm going to try to be better with that. But again, if you guys don't know me on TikTok or Instagram, I'm movie review man. And also, if you don't know why that's my name, it's kind of my generation. My wife came up with that name a long time ago. That didn't used to be my name on TikTok at the beginning. But if you guys ever watched All That, Repair Man. So my wife, she thought of that herself, and I changed it one day, and it just kind of stuck because my account started growing, and it got to the point where I was like, I can't change it now because that's kind of like how they know me by. So like that's just how it's been at this point. So
that's awesome. I always say it whenever I say your username, I say it kind of like South Park episode. I go movie review man.
Yeah, perfect.
Like
yeah, perfect.
So all right, Kevin, appreciate it so much. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Next time I get you on, we'll have you on for a little bit longer, but I really appreciate your insight. Everything you do, keep growing, man. Keep getting out there, and we'll chat soon, brother. Appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it.
Take care, brother.
Too.
All right.